Welcome to the Crypto on the Block radio show, featuring industry pioneers and CEOs across various industries in blockchain and cryptocurrency. Here's your host, Matthew Loughran.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another show. This is Matthew Loughran with Crypto on the Block. Today we have a great show for you. We have Mr. Jarrod Epps, who is a CEO of Goldilock. Goldilock is a crypto key custody and digital asset storage company. Jarrod, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Great to talk to you again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I really appreciate you taking the time coming on here today. So if you can, just do us a quick favor and maybe go through a little bit about yourself as well as Goldilock.
Sure. So I've been running a number of companies during the course of my career, and about 10 months ago, which was soon after my last exit, a good friend of mine called me from Prague, where I lived for 20 years, with an excellent idea that was probably about 75% of the way there for something that can transform the way data is handled over the internet, leveraging blockchain and ledger technology. And it was interesting enough that I put aside a lot of my time from the separate projects I've been running, and we spent the next 4 or 5 months getting the offering into a position that it was patentable, interesting for everybody who we'd spoken with, and to a position where we were able to build an excellent team around it and raise some funds. At this point, we're now a pretty solid team of folks who have worked together in various projects together many times. We've all known each other for decades. We've all run companies and had pretty successful projects in a variety of technical areas, and things are going really well. It's been exciting. The market acceptance has been exciting. The interest from clients and individuals as well as institutions is blowing us away. It's a great time to be in this industry, that's for sure.
Can you maybe go into a little bit about the actual organization for Goldilock? So what is the product or service do that you guys are putting together?
Sure. So essentially, we identified a major gap in security with the fact that, the way the internet was originally built, the idea was that it was going to be very convenient to have all of your data connected all the time. Well, as has been proven from the numerous hacks that everybody who was listening to this has probably been through themselves, the fact is that having your data connected all the time is not really ideal. And that was the premise of Goldilock, and that was what we started building on, using a number of regressive technology knowledge points that we had from our work back in the 90s and in the noughts together. Essentially, what we've decided to do is remove your digital assets from the internet playing field until the moment you want to use them. What I mean by that is there's no reason for your data to be connected when you're not using it. Typically, the only other reason it would be connected is for maybe analytics purposes, or really because there's no better solution out there. And when it is connected and you're not using it, it's more attractive to someone who wants to use it for nefarious purposes. So what we've done is we've built a system that allows you to store your data, be it crypto keys or personal identity. In some cases, we're dealing with video rights management and a number of other key areas with healthcare, credit management, et cetera, and on down the line. And the fact is that you keep all these things offline until the moment you want to use them. And you simply do that using a non-IP trigger mechanism. So you're allowed to come in, bring your assets to a connected environment, and then you can access those via a method that's very similar to what you would use with your traditional banking. So you go from a disconnected environment to a connected environment, and then you're able to access those with your standard username, login, and two-factor authentication.
So what you just said seems like it can have, application to several different industries. And you named several. It immediately came to my mind, right? Which is, obviously the financial institutions, to healthcare, and so forth. Can you maybe walk through just a little bit more of a detailed use case on one of those, just so we can get a fuller picture on, how this might work in a real world?
Sure. So perhaps I'll go with one that's most familiar to people, and that's that's a wire transfer. We've been working with one of the largest banks in the U.S. who have let us know that what we're doing will allow their wire transfer system to not only be more convenient and easy to use for their customers, but it'll be much more secure as well than what they currently have. So essentially, imagine that you have your account or the keys to your transferability thresholds in your account stored in a completely offline environment. You can then connect those and allow any transfers to happen over the internet during the time that you allow those to happen, and then you physically disconnect, and you are in a position where your assets cannot be moved. So that's one excellent use case for us. Obviously, there are a number of others. When working with the video rights management groups, the folks that we have contracted with are handling some editing and some distribution for larger studios. Those studios don't want their assets connected to the internet. However, they want to have access to them periodically. And until now, there's been no way for these guys to address both of those needs. So certainly there's a lot of, let's call them traditional industry applications that are really kind of glomming onto the use cases that we have already in place for crypto. Identity is a massive one for us as well. We're working with some of the larger crypto identity companies out there, and we're very excited to see what they're doing. But essentially, it's interesting because, we're not necessarily a direct service provider for individuals. We're providing back-end technology for these custody groups to actually be more secure than they previously could have been.
Gotcha. So you're really providing that that added layer, or really that added container for that data connection for these groups that could be consumer facing or B2B facing and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. So the larger exchanges that we're working with are providing custody for literally hundreds of billions, if not billions of dollars in some cases. And while traditionally they've had to keep them in essentially in a complete cold storage environment, it's led to pretty massive issues for them with access and with needing to supply funds when we're in transferability of funds at certain times. And really, what they're seeing is this is a way to allow people to access their funds when needed, instead of relying on these typical solutions which take 2-3 days to bring online. Our online activation switch actually is immediate. So, as soon as you want this brought online, it's online, and then as soon as you want it offline, it's immediate. It's offline. So it certainly allows a lot greater flexibility and security. So convenience is a huge factor for this, but it's also, of course, something I think that the larger institutions have identified for us as a massive need.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you guys are doing, right? You've kind of reimagined the data security market through blockchain integration, your specific ecosystem as well. So I'm really kind of curious, what do you think, the impact of your organization will be on the industry?
Well, based on the fact that we haven't done any marketing yet, but we're getting so much incoming interest in our product, we think it's going to be pretty massive. The applications of this technology are somewhat endless. Of course, across crypto, one of the biggest problems that institutions have had with coming into larger amounts of crypto investment is custody solutions simply aren't where they need to be. Convenience, security, and accessibility really haven't reached a meeting point until now. So this is just for the crypto community. It's an absolutely massive shift in the amount of capital that can be brought into the game. Outside of crypto and even off blockchain, the applications of this are immense for some of the largest pain points in our everyday lives. If you look at what happened last year, for example, with the Experian leak, and with everyone needing to go out and freeze their credit and then try to unfreeze their credit, and if you look at the massive issues that people have with trying to do those things, it's difficult. It's not really secure. And the fact is that once they switch over to a system like ours, they're no longer going to have those issues. They'll be able to keep your credit and your approvals off the playing field until it's ready to be used by you. And essentially, you can lock and unlock your credit immediately. It's a whole new world for every financial interaction you have, really.
That's really interesting, right? Because in the blockchain industry, so many companies use the Experian scenario, but it's mostly for the decentralization piece, right? And basically, what you're even saying is, with an implementation of Goldilock, an organization like Experian that is centralized can actually get the added security benefits of having that offline key, basically, to then access that information.
Right, exactly. I mean, you look at the approaches that are being built for decentralization of industries like credit, and they're certainly worthy causes, and they will be applicable. However, there's still always going to be an end node requirement, and that's really where we come in. So, regardless of decentralization, the fact is that people want control, and I think in today's world, we've all realized that if anything is connected to the internet in any way, it's hackable. If you disconnect it, if you're in control of it, you look at all these people who have invested in simple technology like a ledger just to secure their keys and feel like they have better control over it. The fact is that that's a rather rudimentary tool when you consider people are carrying around hundreds of thousands, or in some cases millions of dollars worth of keys in their ledger. And I think that just from a regular man's perspective seems ludicrous. And of course, from an institutional perspective, it's absolutely impossible as an implementation. So what we're doing is allowing folks to really consider the way their data is handled in an entirely new way. And we believe that it's the transformation of data security is really going to be accelerated through the application of our technology.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point there, right, with the hardware wallet scenario. I mean, I've had friends who, unfortunately, have had like their bag stolen with their hardware wallet in it that had like $1 million plus in crypto there, and right, that's just gone. So I saw the pain on his face when it happened.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's really funny
understand
because it is tough. I mean, people have had those things disappear. They've had them stolen. You hear edge case scenarios of kidnappings, which are actually becoming more common, unfortunately. But end of the day, those types of implementations are great when you're a very small investor and maybe you have a few $1,000s, but to carry around the keys to $1 million on you, even if you feel like eventually you could replace that in some way, is just the definition of insanity in my mind. I certainly wouldn't walk around with that much value on me.
So obviously, sounds like you guys have a lot of really strong stuff going on. I'd love to kind of hear from you. What's really exciting you the most about the project and the company?
I think it's really the reaction that we've gotten from various industries. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in the call, we haven't done any marketing really. We had a brief article published on us a couple weeks ago in Entrepreneur, where we were identified as one of the top ICOs coming out, or token sales coming out this summer, and that really kind of garnered a lot of attention across the industry for us, which was interesting. We had expected that would be maybe individual investor interest, but with a few shares of some preliminary information we'd given to our tight investor group who came in with equity for us back in the seed stage, and simple shares within a tight group that we have, the word has spread like wildfire already to a much larger group. And the excitement that you hear in people's voices when they realize that we've solved a massive pain point, so they can take on a new business line, or they can apply a new kind of structure for their finance. It's incredible. typically, you talk to people in banking or insurance or in credit, and those conversations can be quite dry, frankly.
Quite dull and boring. Yeah.
Yeah. But you really hear the transformation in people's voice when they're talking about this. And we originally had a number of applications and use cases for this lined up, but these sessions with these folks who are normally very staid and calm security folks, they're really coming up with brainstorming sessions for us, which is fascinating. So we're excited to be working with a number of the larger groups who have reached out to us, some of the largest groups in crypto and off blockchain as well, that really have come and said, look, we understand what you guys do. This is how we want to use it. Does that work? And ultimately, for everyone, the answer has been yes so far. And so we're working with these very important clients to get their use cases into a real world environment, which is great. It's so exciting.
That's great. And basically, I'll kind of piggyback off that then. So you're working with some clients. Can you maybe go over a little bit about the revenue model for the firm? How does that actually work?
Sure. So essentially, we're a subscription-based model. Initially, we have monthly and annual plans for individuals. We also have API-based implementations for institutions, which rely on a combination of subscription and or value storage payments. And at the end of the day, we also have co-location concepts that we're putting in place with the manufacturing of our nodes. We're creating multi-thousand node implementations that really are going to turn into multi-million node implementations, and those can be run within individual client data centers, or we can run them for them in our data centers, and that model is, of course, much different in the way that's implemented. But the fact is that gives full control to individual institutions over their data. So essentially, we become something very close to what a cloud storage operation may be. However, we offer another layer of flexibility and security within that. So beyond the subscription model, we also have a number of leasing models that are being developed at the moment as well.
Now, obviously, running a business and nothing's always, sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. So, well, I'd like to kind of twist it a little bit. And what are some of the organization's threats at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny every day, Matt. We've had enough conversations that we both are aware of how these things go. You're literally at the top of the mountain 1 hour, and an hour later, you're just like, oh my God, is this ever going to work? And especially when you're
that's how the industry is, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and it's great. We've got our core technology is already up and running. We've got a proof of concept out there. We've got our MVP will be launched in just a couple of weeks. So this is the first business I've run where the technology side has actually been solved sooner than the marketing side, because essentially what we're doing is running an entire business and growing an entire business at the same time we're trying to launch a token sale, which in and unto itself is really like launching a separate business. And so essentially I've never been in a position where I'm ramping up two businesses of the same volume at the same time. And it's difficult, but we're solving the issues that we have along the way. I think the biggest probably threats that we've seen have come from trying to get the actual technology in place. We use some, taking data off the internet playing field is not something that's been done before in a situation when you want to reconnect it. And so relying on some legacy technology that's been out there that perhaps people haven't been leveraging and getting the volumes up high enough to where we have reliability and also scalability has been daunting, to say the least. We're calling people who have been basically running large organizations, and they have assets that they haven't really been engaging and that they hadn't considered use cases for, which eventually we may either have to acquire from them or in some way support over a longer period. That's probably the biggest threat. Having said that, we're certainly putting ourselves in a position to do so, and I think it's been fascinating because of the application, because of what we're actually doing here, to actually get the proactive responses from suppliers, potential suppliers, and as I mentioned already, clients as well, who really kind of solve problems for us proactively, as opposed to sitting back and waiting for us to say things. So, to be a little bit more succinct, probably biggest issue, biggest threat we face is ensuring that we have all our ducks in the row for proper scaling of this, and which we believe we've done. And then secondarily, just making sure that we get this token sale right. As with most people out there, this is our first token sale. And although we have excellent technology, a great leadership team, and we believe excellent supporters who are core to our team that are helping us build out our smart contract technology and on Neo, and our individual RPC nodes, and bringing everything to market kind of in parallel. It gives you the jitters, because we're talking about a lot of money here.
Yeah, no, and at least you guys have actually built the tech to make sure it's secured, right? So that's another side of this thing, right? Again, I talk with innovators all day, and a common fear, I'd say, is, well, great, if I raise all this money and I put it somewhere and all of a sudden it's gone, right? Someone can hack it or this and that. So, I'm not even sure I've even looked down look at other companies that are running ICOs as this being a solution for them, even to kind of help secure those funds, but definitely something to also focus on. So absolutely.
Certainly.
And obviously, we love to have blockchain innovators here on the show. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how you guys are leveraging blockchain? Obviously, we talked about the data security piece, but how are you guys actually leveraging blockchain?
We're basically leveraging blockchain to allow people to ensure the privacy of what they're actually storing and transacting upon within their node. The lock token itself is essential to allowing us to keep the information on each node encrypted, while also allowing us to track when a node has been brought online and used for a transaction. Lock tokens themselves, which when coupled with Goldilock's proprietary smart contract logic, will allow for storage of private keys and other assets, as you know. But we want to have an immutable auditing mechanism for each node. And in order to do that in a way that allows us to still keep the individual node encrypted, so that even our own team can't see what's on that node, we use the lock token as a gateway, and also for a kind of approval for writing to our private blockchain. So each individual node is assigned a lock token. Each lock token has a registration on it, which allows us to understand which node it applies to. And then the individual user is able to better track when their node is brought online or used for a transaction. Now, that's important because in the beginning, of course, not a lot of groups or individuals, will feel comfortable moving their private keys to our system and not want to keep a copy of it themselves. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're working with some of the largest institutions in the world. The fact is, people won't necessarily trust us inherently until we've been around for several years. So using this privacy and audit logging mechanism on our own private blockchain allows us to have this immutable storage record of use cases and uses and transactions, while allowing that user to keep their private keys in a vault somewhere else if they want to, so that they feel more comfortable. The fact is, they will never have to use that key, but from a sense of personal well-being, the fact is, human beings want to have something in their hands. It's just the way we are. So for individuals and for institutions, we've instituted this way of putting a tracking mechanism effectively on their individual node. They'll also know, for instance, when anyone from our team enters their individual vault to do some maintenance on the hardware server system. They'll also have a record of any sort of transaction login or log off that they've made within that individual node, and all that's written within our own private blockchain.
Okay. I mean, it makes total sense to me when you're setting up this system, right, for data security and like you just explained, right, having that trust factor from an individual to provide you that private key. And yeah, I'd like to know what any activity is going on, right? You know, if I take this in the offline world, right, if I have a little storage unit somewhere, you know, it would be nice to know whenever somebody walks past that storage unit and, you know, knocks on the door or something to that extent, right? That's basically what you're building in this model, is giving them clarity and insight into any type of information that is being pinged by them obviously with their own transactions and so forth on your ledger. But if you're also letting them know, hey, we're doing an upgrade on XYZ, this is what's going on, you know, it just makes sense to me.
Matt, you know what? You should really be working for us. You say this stuff so much better than I do. You've got your own massive whale type fish to fry, though.
Not a problem. But obviously, you know, Jarrod, it's been fabulous having you on the show today. Obviously, I know you guys are super busy. I know what it's like, you know, when you're in the trenches and you're getting that token sale running and you're running your company as well. But obviously, you know, I also want to make sure that, you know, listeners can understand, you know, where they can learn more information about Goldilock, connect with you guys and so forth. So how can listeners get a hold of you guys?
So our website is actually launching today. As Entrepreneur kind of pushed us forward, we decided to launch that. Our social channels were set up a couple weeks ago. We're literally just going to start marketing and letting people understand that we're out here on a more granular basis over the next couple of weeks. So you can go to www.goldilock.com to use the old-fashioned internet terminology, and you can find any information you need from us there.
And again, just so it's Goldilock, right, with no S at the end. You know, guys aren't a fairy tale.
No, but you know, it is funny. The naming of this company comes from several things. Obviously, you know, cold storage being offline, hot storage being online, and us being a combination of both. Well, that just seemed logical to come up with Goldilock. So it's not with an S. We are.
I was on the website. I saw the little. It's not cold storage. It's not hot storage. Just the right storage or something to that extent, right?
Yeah, that's us. You got it.
I love it. Well, perfect, man. Again, appreciate it. Great talking to you. You know, it's always a great time when we can chat. And again, just excited to get some listeners some insight into something that is really revolutionary to several different industries, and not only just in the blockchain and crypto world, but realistically, as we're talking about, right? You're talking about video sharing, and if I can think of piracy and stuff like that in that industry, I'm sure they don't want stuff online as least as possible, right? So it seems like there's so many different applications for you guys, and I know you're going to be super busy, which is great, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show today.
As well, Matt. Thanks again. I know you're busy also. I'm excited about what you're doing, and I always appreciate the chance to talk to you. Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, this is Matthew Lochran with Crypto on the Block. Until next time, talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Crypto on the Block radio show with Matthew Lochran. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Tune in next time.